Hey guys, this is Nephis here. Today we're gonna bust a couple of ESO myths regarding the item sets Olorime and Spell Power Cure. For those of you who don't know what either of these item sets do, they're basically healer sets that give a buff known as Major Courage to the people in your group. Major Courage is an amazing boost to your group's DPS, but how these sets, Spell Power Cure and Olorime, give Major Courage completely differ. So Spell Power Cure, you basically have a 50% chance of giving up to 6 people, including yourself, Major Courage only when everyone's at full health. So it's a 50% chance to give Major Courage once you start overhealing, and it's limited to 6 people and only lasts for 10 seconds. Olorime, on the other hand, you have a 100% chance of giving Major Courage to up to 12 people every 10 seconds, including yourself. There is no healing requirement. The only requirement is that they touch the Olorime circle you place on them or on the ground. You don't have to stay in the circle to retain the Major Courage buff. Oh, and by the way, Olorime's Major Courage lasts for 30 seconds. 20 seconds longer than SPC, and again, you can also put down a new circle every 10 seconds, just in case. On paper and in actual practice, it's pretty obvious Olorime is the clear winner every single time, but for the past year or so, whether it's in the game, on Reddit, or on the forums, there have been so many people perpetuating these myths that, yeah, sure, Olorime is cool and all, but SPC is still better than Olorime. SPC is better for disorganized pugs, SPC is better for the stupid DPS who run around constantly, SPC is better in dungeons, SPC is better in PvP, SPC is better for mobile trial fights, blah, 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 hoopla, right? Normally, I wouldn't care, but some people who come to my Discord or comment on my videos say that SPC is still better, or confused as to why people use Olorime over SPC in a lot of scenarios. And what's funny is I had to actually make a video explaining why it's better a long time ago. The Asian God made a video explaining why it's better. Healy from PCEU made a video explaining how it worked and why it's better. And you have goddamn Outcast who made a video about it. Not to mention the fact that every PV in-game healer I know got rid of their SPC and switched to Olorime, and this was like almost a year ago. A year later, we still have people spreading misinformation about Olorime or how SPC gives better stats or whatever, so I'm going to address it in this video and just leave it at that once and for all. So hopefully anyone who watches this in the future actually learns to not completely trust strangers on the internet without any evidence, who don't have any evidence. So the first myth we want to tackle is Olorime sucks for mobile fights. SPC is still better in that kind of scenario. Alright, so first of all, I'm going to give a really good example of an extremely challenging fight for a lot of groups which require a high degree of movement and which also still has one healer giving Major Courage to everyone with little to no effort in Olorime. And that fight is Asylum Sanctorium Hard Mode, or just even the less difficult variants of it. It's a fight where you literally have 8 DPS running around, not stacking or whatever, and they still get a higher Major Courage uptime than you ever would with the off-tank and healer running Spell Power Cure. How do I know this? One, I was literally one of the first off-tanks running SPC for Asylum Sanctorium Hard Mode a long time ago, and in combination with a group healer running SPC, so we could try to guarantee Major Courage, or back then it was a Major Courage, to our 8 DPS running around. Our highest uptimes we saw on the DPS were only in the mid to high 50s for Major Courage, and this was for 15 plus minute fights or even less. Fast forward to when we have Olorime and this Immortal Redeemer run here, where we get a no death. Everyone's having to play safe. We have fucking barriers because we're bad, and we get a significantly higher uptime on Major Courage. And this is going to be reflected in pretty much every ESO logs for whatever trial and even VAS hard mode. So looking at the damage done here, you got like here's me at the second most DPS, and there's other people in the bottom 5, whatever, and you're gonna be like, well, Nephis, why don't you click on one? It'll show us how bad Major Courage uptime is. It must have been bad because this dude got 34k compared to the highest dude who got 44.36. Let's click on this dude, alright? Let's look at this motherfucker, okay? So we got buffs. Alright, now let's look for Major Courage. Now Major Courage, his uptime, the lowest DPS uptime was 90.6 62 goddamn percent. All right, well, Nefis, that's probably a coincidence. The ESO logs is probably wrong, or maybe it's a coincidence. I don't fucking know how you think that's a coincidence, but let's keep looking at the next dude, random dude. Let's see, Major Courage, 96.64%. All right, and obviously it's going to be a bit higher as you go, right? And this just basically shows you in a very highly mobile fight where the group healer is putting Olorime down in pretty much the same spot every time, in the middle. So if people wanted the Olorime circle, they would go to the middle and pick it up. And if you didn't, whatever, you still get a higher uptime than SPC. So we got a lot of stuff to do as healers, Nefis. We can't afford to keep track of our stupid DPS in dungeons or make an effort to buff the group. And I'm just like, when people say this, I'm just like, what are you talking about? That's like in your healer job description. It's hilarious to me, actually, that people who say Olorime is bad still slot combat prayer. And combat prayer is like an 8-second buff heal, right? And these people think that keeping up a 30-second buff at least every 10 to 30 seconds is too hard. So you're going to be using an 8-second buff over using a set that gives free Major Courage. I don't know about that. That's kind of faulty logic. And if your DPS really don't want to stand still in your heals or at least touch the damn thing, that's their problem, really, not yours as a healer. Well, what about PvP, Nefis? PvE is just stack and burn. Ah, yes, the last bastion. Healers who are in ball groups or organized PvP raid groups have used and do use Olorime over SPC if they intend to give Major Courage to their group. I know a lot of healers that can't afford to run Olorime sometimes because their group needs something else like transmutation. SPC is just absolutely horrible when you compare the uptimes even in high stress situations. Like, groups that coordinate their movement have benefited more from rolling over the Olo circle. Their healers know to place in anticipation of group movement that they can, getting Major Courage sometimes from SPC, if they're ever at full health. Because remember, this is PvP we're talking about. You're always going to be constantly taking damage, so the likelihood of SPC giving a higher Major Courage uptime than Olorime, pretty abysmal. And, okay, Nefis, you're talking about organized groups. How about the pugs? You're delusional if you think the stupid DPS I queue up with will stand in my Olo circle, or much less my heals. Hehehe. You think I can get a halfway decent uptime on Major Courage on this light attacking Dumbo over here, while the other Dumbo is spamming ambush on the boss? The answer is yes. But, if you don't believe me, or, the math, I've got a nice surprise for you in this video. I've come up with a testable formula that I'll be showing you guys here shortly. And I'm going to queue up for random vet dungeons in Group Finder as a healer. And for every Olo circle I manage to land on these mythical creatures that somehow dodge every AoE, every healing AoE, I'm going to take a shot. Alright? The formula is going to look something like this. Olorime plus alcohol is greater than the value of SPC times 1 million. Alright, so we got gin, rum, vodka, and other alcohols here. So, I'll see you guys very soon. I'll get some cheap vodka over here as well. So, let's get started.
2,000 years later.
Okay, we're gonna pour one for my boys, my homies. He's gonna get, fucked over by no SPC. Let's pour one for my homies. Alright. God, that smells good as fuck. Alright. Alright. Taking your shot. Ah. Stepped in. one for my boys, my homies. He's gonna get fucked over by no SPC. Let's pour one for my homies. Alright, taking your shot. Ah!